Generally, a lot of people would say you reap what you sow. So how do we fix self-radicalized lone wolves domestically?
Well, we've got to identify the people who are most likely to be radicalized. We've got to cut this off at the beginning. There are always a certain number of young people who are alienated. They don't get a job, they lost a girlfriend, their family doesn't feel happy here. And we can watch the signs of that, and there are members of the community who will reach out to those people and bring them back in and encourage them to look at their blessings here. But I do think on a national policy level, we need to look at what self-radicalization means, because we are at war with this group of terrorists. They do have an ideology. In World War II, if someone supported Nazi Germany at the expense of the United States, we didn't say that was freedom of speech. We put him in a camp. They were prisoners of war. So if these people are radicalized and they don't support the United States and they're disloyal to the United States as a matter of principle, fine, that's their right. It's our right and our obligation to segregate them from the normal community for the duration of the conflict. And I think we're going to have to increasingly get tough on this, not only in the United States, but our allied nations like Britain and Germany and France are going to have to look at their domestic law procedures.
General Wesley Clark, as always, great to see you, sir. Thanks for your time, and I want to pass along to our viewers.
Protect your guns with the Safe and Vault store. That's the Safe and Vault store. Click the link below right now. A price match guarantee on all of its popular safes. Give them a call today. Free shipping, enter promo code Second Amendment, 2ND Amendment for 10% off your order through the end of the month, into July, and also free shipping. Click the link below right now. That's a Safe and Vault store. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green, and you're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. It's July 21st, 2015. General Wesley Clark, a 4-star general, has all kinds of medals, even medals I haven't even heard of, honorary medals I've never heard of from around the world, made a very outlandish, extreme, controversial, and insane comment yesterday. I believe it was on MSNBC. Many of you are probably familiar with him. He was very critical of the Bush administration post the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks, of which he accused the Bush administration of going to war in countless country after country, whether or not it was Iraq or Afghanistan overseas, post 9/11, even though the respective countries like Iraq, had nothing to do with the alleged attacks. Now yesterday, on MSNBC, I believe it was, made a comment warning Americans that if they disagreed with the government, they should be put in internment camps. These are some of the most controversial, extreme, anti-American comments I have ever heard in the history of being in this business, in the history of being alive, in the history of AMTV. General Wesley Clark, a 4-star, highly respected general, said that if you disagree with the government, you should be put in a concentration camp, maybe even potentially killed. He says that during times of war, like during World War II, for example, if you were anti the United States during World War II in support of the Nazis, he uses that as an example. You had no rights. You were just put into a concentration camp, an internment camp, a FEMA camp. Remember, we did this to the Japanese Americans around this time because they had slanted eyes. How does the politically correct narrative in the politically correct community that makes up America today feel about that? And feel about what General Wesley Clark is saying to countless Americans, millions and millions of people. More importantly, why is he saying it? Again, these are some of the most anti-American, scandalous, controversial, and insane comments I have ever heard in the history of the world. I mean, he's telegraphing, it's no longer a conspiracy, he's telegraphing concentration camps for Americans, political dissidents. Now, of course, he's using it under the guise of ISIS, with all these ISIS attacks, these attacks by ISIL, the new government CIA created boogeyman. We used to have Al-Qaeda, but allegedly Osama bin Laden, who was killed multiple times, and then his body thrown off a U.S. warship without a selfie being taken or any DNA evidence to prove it. Again, he died many times over. Now the new boogeyman is ISIS, and it's the smokescreen for the reason we're fighting all of these wars overseas. The same wars that General Wesley Clark had criticized on Democracy Now! Very famously post the 9/11 September 2001 terror attacks, and criticized heavily the Bush administration for invading these countries under false pretenses, bold-faced lies. Now no longer a conspiracy, but a four-star general warning countless Americans and those of you tuning in around the world that if you disagree with the federal government, if you disagree with Barack Obama, if you disagree with his radical policies, they'll just declare an act of war and put you in a concentration camp and maybe even put you to death. Again, these aren't my words. These are the words of a four-star general who I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but this is what he said yesterday. Why is the general making these comments? Well, I think it's probably more than likely a trial balloon. What is a trial balloon, Christopher? Well, basically, he's putting it into the public consciousness. They're testing it. They're testing the waters. They're creating a narrative around it. They want to hear public discourse and discussion. See the dumb ass sheeple groundlings. See how they deal with the fact that they're kind of telegraphing you in the not too distant future, under the declaration of war, they're going to start gathering up countless Americans and throwing you in freaking concentration camps. You know, if you're anti-Obama, and let's say you vote for Trump, who Senator McCain here in Arizona, it's amazing that he gets elected because there's countless Arizonans here locally that just hate this guy. I mean, I've been to the town hall meetings interviewing him. It seems like people just hate the guy. He says that Trump is igniting the crazies. So maybe people like General Wesley Clark and the people that he worked for will decide that anybody that votes for Trump or that supports Trump should be put in a concentration camp, a FEMA camp, and maybe they'll even put you to death for disagreeing with Hillary Rodham Clinton in 2016. So, you know, who knows? Maybe General Wesley Clark owes certain people something, which is why he's putting out this trial balloon, putting this into public consciousness, creating public discourse around this to see and to kind of gauge the reaction from the people, gauge the reaction from the mainstream corporatist media that again is pushing and propelling this message. See what people do. See if they're comfortable with it. You know, in this politically correct transgender society, a four-star freaking general talking about putting Americans in concentration camps. You know, it's absolutely insane. You know, I think what General Wesley Clark said yesterday was probably the most radical statement I've ever heard. And even though I entirely detest it and disagree with it and think he's a piece of shit for saying it, I still don't think General Wesley Clark should go to a concentration camp. That's totally and entirely and utterly anti-American. The whole idea and principle of America is that we're allowed to be political dissidents. The country was founded on political dissidents. Who do you think our founding fathers were? Radical political dissidents. That's what established America. That's what established this great country. So again, this is a trial balloon, folks. They're putting this out into the public discourse to gauge public reaction because in the not too distant future, again, the wheels have already come off the wagon. We've already derailed. But during an act of war, when they declare an act of war, they'll just simply put anyone that's anti-Obama or anti-Hillary, for example, maybe you voted for Trump, you'll be the ones forced into concentration camps. They'll just gather you up, call it an act of war, because by then it'll be World War III. It'll be very serious. People will be scared. People will be shitting their pants. And at that time, General Wesley Clark, who's probably being teed up by Hillary Clinton right now in 2016 to be the Secretary of State or be potentially the Secretary of Defense, or God knows what else, other plans they have for him. Who knows? Maybe he pissed people off in the Bush administration, the powers that be. Maybe he's got to make these comments to make amends. Who knows? But they're probably teeing him up for the next administration. Or maybe he's just a mouthpiece of the administration, a mouthpiece of the government. This is insane. This is utterly outlandish. Again, the most anti-American comments, discourse I've ever heard in the history of doing this. Who knows why he made this comment? Who knows why they're putting this out again into the public sphere and into the public consciousness. What can you do about it? You can share the word, folks. You can get it out. You can tell your friends and family this is no longer a freaking conspiracy theory. They're talking FEMA camps here in the United States of America. Concentration camps. Isn't this what the bullshit mainstream media, again, the victor always writes history, tells us that Hitler supposedly did? You know, gathered up all the Jews, this is what they tell us, and just gassed them as political dissidents and dissidents of his regime? How is this any different? How is what Wesley Clark talking about any different? You see, the victor writes history. See, if it was the other way around, if Hitler won, if Nazi Germany had won, guess who the Nazis would have been? America. Americans would have been the Nazis. And they're making Nazi-like comments right now. No longer conspiracy, a 4-star general warning Americans, millions of people, about concentration camps here in the United States of America. I mean, I can't make this shit up. It's just the truth. So what you can do about it is get the word out. Share this video. Like this video. Give it to a friend. Give it to a family member. Send it via email. Warn them. Hashtag it. POS Wesley Clark. Or POS Clark. Or POS General Wesley Clark. Piece of shit Wesley Clark. Hashtag that. Something along those lines, and share this video. Again, General Wesley Clark making the most outlandish, anti-American, radical, insane Nazi comments I have ever heard in the history of America. The truth. Get out everywhere. I'm Christopher Green. Hard hitting in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.